Cool. So, what's up, guys? I have got an old legend here of New Zealand arcades. I've got my man DeeSam. What's up, bro?
Hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, good, bro. So, for those new players entering the scene or are in the scene who don't know you in terms of New Zealand Tekken, tell us briefly about who you are.
Who I am? Name's DeeSam. Basically, I was a pretty hardcore player back in Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection days. Played a lot at the arcades, which is basically where I played to play Tekken back then. There was no online, and there was not really a crazy awesome tournament scene back then either.
Yeah. I
Just
just
an arcade slugger.
yeah. And I mean, I thought it was good to get you on because this would be a unique episode because we're going back to the arcades, in this case, the birthplace of the NZFGC, which is, where a lot of us have had our, experiences and a lot of our players have come from. And you'd be
Sure.
one of the best people to talk about this experience since you would be able to paint a picture of what it was like for New Zealand Tekken. So I guess we could start off with this tweet here. I think Alex Valle put it out and he was talking about how basically the young kids have got it easy and the arcade players who were in there grinding, they had it rough. I mean, that's a fair accusation, eh?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I mean, the biggest thing is at the arcades, you're paying for every single game. So it's your dollar on the line. And I think, well, let me just read this tweet. So many of you don't know how skilled players were back then. And actually see this tweet. Um, single elimination tournaments. That was kind of the normal.
Yeah.
One game, single elim. No YouTube, no videos. It was pretty hard to get videos. Like if you happen to have a mate with a hookup of like some recordings of Korean matches, you're just totally gonna level up above everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could try and scour the web back then, but it was really hard to get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like no, for a long time, no console, so you kind of figure it out while you're playing other people.
Yeah.
Or maybe you get there when it's empty and you're playing against the CPU, against the computer,
Mm.
and practicing combos and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, with today, you have a lot of there's a lot of information and tech so accessible. It's just a different dynamic compared to back then. So I was hoping you could take us through your journey being a player, starting off at the arcades. So let's just start off with a general question. Had you ever touched an arcade machine ever before you started playing in town? I'm talking about like your local dairy or your fish and chip shop.
Yeah, definitely. Fish and chip shops like, Street Fighter 2, whatever it was. I'm not really a Street Fighter player, but it was always like Street Fighter 2 at the fish and chip shops, 50 cents, maybe even 20 cents back then. I can't remember. And I remember Why We're Hot Pools actually had Tekken 1. They had like a little arcade in there.
Really?
So they had Tekken 1 there. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, so take us through your beginnings getting up to Tekken, prior to Tekken 5 DR.
Okay. Actually, I probably first got into Tekken with Tekken 2. My uncle had he had it on PlayStation and he lived down near Rotorua and I went to stay and played it a hell of a lot. And that was like, I wanted a PlayStation and I wanted Tekken 2 after that experience. And I loved it. And I remember back then, I used to like hire out the PlayStation and the Tekken 2 when I had enough pocket money. And I just play just by myself or against the computer, whatever. But also, like, do you remember the music shops, ECM, Soundwave? I think it was Soundwave. I can't remember. Maybe Pulse.
Yeah.
But the music shop
yeah.
in the mall, like when people still bought CDs and tapes.
Yeah, just a quick story. I used to work for a company that put them out of business.
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
bro.
you did.
Yeah, I know,
yes,
bro.
you did.
Yeah, it's such a novelty now, like actually to go to a music shop and actually listen to music before you buy it. Now it's just like, no, you don't even get a chance.
Yeah. It's different era. Anyway, so those music shops, they always had like a PlayStation setup, and it was mostly Tekken 2 for a long time. And kids would just kind of gather there and play each other, and the rules kind of sorted themselves out. So it's just like winner stays on. And I would always go to the mall, find whatever music shop had the Tekken 2 setup, and there's always a crowd of kids playing. I just jump on and battle these kids.
Yeah.
So like I was kind of like being competitive all the way back then.
Jesus.
Tekken 3 came out and it was awesome, but I didn't really like. I played it a lot, just single player and stuff. Survival mode. Actually, it was a pretty cool single player experience. It had all the side games and stuff, a lot of stuff to unlock. But I didn't do much playing other kids in that game. And then Tekken 4 came out, and I played a hell of a lot of Tekken 4. I love this game. And going back to when I went down to my uncle's, so I basically, that would be my school holidays. I'd go down there and stay, and he's a big gamer, so he pretty much got me into games. And we just play a lot of games, and he had a friend who would come around play games too, and he liked Tekken, and they actually had a Tekken 3 tournament down in Rotorua. It was Central Park. That was the games company. They hosted it. And so he took that tournament out. And I remember thinking, man, he must be really good. One day when I stay there for the holidays, I got to challenge him and beat him.
I will learn his ways.
I will beat him. So I always got pretty competitive when it came to Tekken. And so I played a lot of Tekken 4. My best mate in high school, his name's Jackie Chan, funnily enough, and yes, his favorite character is Lei Wulong. So he was Filipino, and he had a cousin still back home in the Philippines who actually played at the arcades. And he would we'd talk about Tekken, and we'd kind of brag about what's the highest damage combo you can do in practice mode. And these weren't legit combos, because you do like a 10-hit combo and it ends with a launcher, and then you do a juggle on top of it. But it's not, it's not a legit combo. But we're just noobs back then. And then we'd start having like weekend sessions. Like he'd come around to mine, or I'd go around to his, and we would just battle each other all the time. And then he started getting on the phone to his cousin and getting some legit tech. So I don't know if you played Tekken 4 or not, but there's some horrendously broken stuff in there. Yeah, in my opinion, that makes the game really, really fun.
Yeah,
I like cheap broken stuff.
Yeah, I mean, they introduced the ceilings, the wall breaks, or the phone booth breaks. Yeah, I played Lee, obviously, and I heard that Lee had some infinite shit in the Heihachi arena,
Lee, actually.
Bro. Yeah, I missed out by just as much.
You missed it out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Oh, character-wise, by the way, I was always a Paul main. He was always my favorite character. He was boss in Tekken 4 as well. His sweep, the Demolition Man, if you block the first hit, there's no block stagger. It just keeps going through. And he's really boss. He had a one input death fist of sidestep, so you don't have to do the quarter circle forward. Just kind of sidestep and then push forward too, and the punch comes out.
Shit.
Yeah. So I was using Paul, and I was beating Jackie most of the time until he started getting tech. So he got like Jin's Just Frame Laser Scraper, which is Devil Jin's backfield 2-1 down to so the last hit in Tekken 4, if you hold it down a bit, it's unblockable. If you hold it down with a specific timing, it's unblockable and very fast.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, and Jin had a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. So Jackie ended up getting all this stuff for Jin and Lee, and then he just demolished me with it. And
it made an impression on you. Yeah.
It did. So it was kind of like an arms race. So like maybe I'd beat him one weekend, and then the next weekend he'd overall win more matches. It was a bit of back and forth, and he just completely demolished me this particular time. So I went looking on the web, and I found Tekken Zaibatsu, and I started reading all the forums. So this is how you had to get information back then. Like you just like scroll through massive amounts of text to try and find the good stuff.
Yeah.
And turns out Nina was actually top tier in Tekken 4 as well. So I kind of learned her tech. So her Hayashida, step. It's like the backsway, sidestep, backsway, sidestep.
Yep.
It basically evaded everything in that game. And then the ivory cutter was very, very strong. So that became my weapon against his cheese. and it went for the, I think we just about figured out all of the stuff you could do.
Yeah.
In that game, just searching online and trying stuff out. Kuma had this awesome just frame unblockable low, so it was one of my go-tos for a while. But yeah, Jackie and I played a lot of Tekken 4, just mashing our heads against each other, and that was like, yeah, that was probably the awakening for me. Just like, I want to keep getting good at this game. It's so addictive. Like, you learn new things, and then you beat him. And then he learns some new stuff to counter it, and he beats you, and you just keep going up and up and up.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience with a friend as well. The way he introduced me to Tekken was very similar to you and Jackie. So I really understand that rapport of, he brings something to the table, you overcome it, and then he brings something else, you get overtaken by it. Yeah, it's actually really nice having that back and forth. So
yeah, it's the most enjoyable thing.
So now we get to Tekken 5, Tekken 5 DR. Probably one of the best Tekken versions that we've ever seen up until that point. So how did you appear? How did you appear at eFans? Because it was it was a legit arcade. Didn't have any claw or candy machines for prizes or tokens. It was a good atmosphere for competition, something that you would have loved.
It's actually kind of there it is. Brings back a lot of memories.
You will never see that ever in New Zealand for some time, like rows of arcade cabinets, eh?
Yeah, I remember some place called Galaxy that I went to for like a birthday party as a kid. It was kind of like this. I'm sure it was called Galaxy, but I was like 10 years old back then. This is, what a beautiful place to be.
And this is the original, like down in that downstairs, like basement type thing.
One more row over and we get to the main spot. Just to the left, there it is.
Yep.
Just on the right there, the Tekken setup. And they had Tekken 4 just on the left there.
Yeah. They had so many good games there, man, like Soul Calibur 2 and King of Fighters, Killer Instinct. Like, it was a decent arcade for its time.
Yeah, man. For New Zealand.
Yeah.
So me getting to the arcades is actually kind of a funny story. So I kind of held this huge respect for the arcade scene because like Jackie was getting all this tech from his cousin who played at the arcades in Philippines. So it was like this, in my mind, it was like this big mecca. I'm like, is there arcades in New Zealand? I want to find out. I must know. So I actually went online. I was Googling like Auckland Tekken arcades or something, and I came across forums with some people discussing Tekken at the arcades, and I just straight up signed up to this message board, and I sent a direct message to somebody named Grimwalker. So do you recall Grimwalker?
No, I don't.
So he was a Tekken Tag player. I think he's very old school. He played Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag, probably Tekken 4, but he didn't like it like most of the scene didn't like Tekken 4. It was far too different.
Yeah.
Anyway, I messaged this guy, Grimwalker, and I was like, hey, I'm really into Tekken, and I'm really, really, really good, and I want to go to the arcades and play the best players. Where should I go? It was basically my message was like that.
Yeah.
That was it. Well, I thought it was hot shit. I really did think I was hot shit. And his reply to me was like, so I asked who's the best players and where do I find them? And he said something to the effect of basically the best of the best is this guy named Vince with his Mishimas. And he plays at Yifans on Queen Street.
That's the name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. And then he also said, but there was this other guy that came up once and completely demolished everybody, including Vince. He came up from Wellington. His name was Mike. So I'm like, okay, I got to go to Yifans. That's where I'm going.
Yep.
And I kind of just like pushed Mike out of my head because like Wellington was so far away. I want to go play this Vince character. So anyway, I got myself to Yifans, I guess I came at a bad time. This was before Tekken 5 was out, maybe a couple months before Tekken 5 was out. In time frames a bit iffy for me, but I went there and I played Tekken 4, and it was a Paul player, so I played Paul against him. And number one, I could not use the stick at all. I was jumping all over the place.
Yeah,
because I was a pad player, you know. And I can't remember how that went, but I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I need a stick. So I messed around on Tekken 4 that day, and I went home, and excuse me.
oh, you're right.
And from there, what happened? I'm not sure. So life went on a little bit, and then Tekken 5 was out. You know, it was like on the news releases and stuff. So I wonder when it's coming to New Zealand. Will we even be lucky enough to get it? Because, you know, back then it was like, it would either take ages for stuff to get here, or you might not get it at all.
Yeah.
But I found the New Zealand thread at Tekken Zaibatsu. Tekken Zaibatsu, of course, the online mecca for a long time for Tekken, replaced by Discord and everything else these days. But so I found the NZ thread, and I saw people saying Tekken 5's out at Timezone, underneath Burger King. And so like that weekend I went, and I spent like all my savings. It was $2 a game. I stayed all day. I played all day. I remember before I went in, I watched, I think you could try and watch some YouTube footage or something. And I went to the Paul forums to try and memorize some combos, learn the new moves. So yeah, I played all day, and it was jam-packed. It was really jam-packed.
Yeah.
And I didn't do too badly, I remember. Like, I could take some games, but I could also lose a lot. But I just kept going. I kept swiping and kept playing. So yeah, now I'm at the arcades. And I remember seeing, so you had the card system that just came out for the first time. Tekken 5 introduced customizations and stuff.
Yeah.
And player ranks and win percentages and all that kind of stuff. And there was two players who absolutely stood out. It was a guy named Mirage with his Brian, and a guy with the tag 666 who was playing Lei and Feng Wei. It's an old school player, so these are very old school Tekken tag players. And they absolutely demolished. But also Brian and Feng were really, really strong in Tekken 5. And Paul was okay, but he wasn't on the level. So once again, I found out that Nina was top tier. Yeah. So I was back to her. And yeah. and it was just like, I had everybody I saw there, I had to be able to beat. I had to be better than. Yeah. This is just my whole mindset. And so Mirage and Casey were like the two guys I had my targets on. This Vince character, never saw him for a long ass time.
Yeah, but you heard, yeah, it's that myth. You kept hearing about him, right?
Yeah. I don't think he picked up Tekken 5 till a few months later. Yeah, so because I think Tekken Tag was, it was running for a long time, and he was, from what I hear, he was the king of Tekken Tag.
Yeah.
In Auckland. But I'm sure, the days of them showing up every single day would have been long ago, the one before Tekken 5 came out.
What's one thing about DR that not many new players who touch the game would know about it?
So you mean like guys that came in Tekken 6, Tekken 7?
Yeah, say if a kid who started with Tekken 7 actually jammed Tekken 5 DR, what's something you think that they won't notice at first?
So it was a lot harder in many ways. So the throw breaks have been made a lot easier in Tekken 7. What the biggest thing they'd probably notice is like they'll feel like they are flying, because the movement in that game is just so
fluid, yeah.
So fluid. Like probably overpowered if So there's the Korean backdash and stuff, and back then these techniques, they weren't well known. They were kind of like dojo secrets. Not everybody outside of Korea or Japan would be doing them. So like having a really crisp backdash and backdash canceling, that wasn't entirely a thing really for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So the fact that the movement was so fluid, like maybe today with everybody has a great backdash, it seems everybody's so good.
Yeah.
Everybody's so good these days. I don't know. I think the way people can move now, if they go back and play DR, they'll just feel free.
Yeah.
Absolutely free. That's the biggest thing. And the other thing is like Okazumi in the earlier Tekkens, Tekken 5 would have been the last of it. Okazumi was pretty punishing, pretty brutal. Like it was a learning curve just trying to figure out how to safely get up in the older Tekkens. There's like back roll catches, tech catches.
Yeah.
Just stand-up catches. You couldn't just hold back and stand directly up and block like you can now. You'd end up back rolling, which was dangerous but good in some situations.
You briefly mentioned Vince. I found some clips of you facing him. When did you actually run into him? Where was it? And how did you go about getting matches from him?
Yeah, so I remember it's like one of those bubble memories where I kind of remember bits and pieces of it, but not all the details. So when I first played Vince, I came down to Timezone in the evening, pretty late actually. I remember it was quite late, so most of the players weren't there anymore. And this new guy was there who I hadn't seen before, and Casey was around him, like telling him, he was like telling him stuff he should try out. And a couple other guys it was like this little mini entourage around him, if you would.
Yeah.
And he was just playing against the CPU. And so I jumped on. I didn't know it was Vince, but I had a feeling because I knew him and Casey were good mates. And he was playing Diligent. So I had a feeling that this was the mythological Vince. This sounds crazy, but this is just how it happened.
Yeah.
For me. Oh man, that series.
Yeah.
I think that might have been our last real series.
Yeah, because your reactions and even the movement, I can tell that you'd been playing quite a lot up until this point.
Yeah. I actually this particular series we talked about it, and we know we didn't play that great, but it was really tense. Like we were both, for some reason, we were both kind of off. But it doesn't really matter. Like, I should go back to the beginning, but it ended up me and him. It was a serious rivalry, I guess you could say. We played a lot, back to back.
I mean, you could really tell, you could really tell what you were saying about the movement in the game being fluid, and just you can really see the pace of it jump back and forth. It's never stagnant,
Yeah. It's I mean, it's hard to put your finger on what it is, and maybe I'm just biased, but I really love this game. It feels so good to play. So good to play. So yeah, meeting Vince the first time. So I jumped on, and I heard Casey say, "Oh, this guy is really something like he's really, really cheap." So the funny thing was, actually, I'll get into this term quickly. The term "waiter fuck." So this term, "waiter fuck," this is something that Casey called me and anybody else who turtle, as in they played very defensively. Yeah. And it's considered back then, if you were a turtle, you're a dirty player, you're a scum. And in Tekken Tag, you would get a chicken next to your name if you were too defensive.
Yeah.
And if you got a chicken, you're not to be respected as a player. This was just the mentality, But if you think about it, if you've got perfect defense, then all you should do is just wait for your opponent and block whatever is unsafe that they are going to do eventually to try and open you up and punish them. That would be the perfect way to play if you had perfect defense.
Yeah.
But this was the mentality. So if you're a turtle, you're a cheap, dirty player, and you got called a waiter fuck, a WF. So when I when I picked up Nina and I started to slowly start to take some rounds and then some games of Casey and then maybe some sets. I kind of call it sets loosely. It's just like when you deathmatch somebody for a bunch of games back and forth, right? He made this like huge, like ragey post about how cheap I was, and that's kind of how the term "way the fuck" propagated. And yeah, so yeah, I remember hearing Casey say to Vince, "This DeeSam. He's this new kid. He's really, really, really fucking cheap." So anyway, I played Paul against him. He was playing Devilgen, and I was with the sidestep death fist thing in Tekken 4, the one button death fist of sidestep. It ended up being like a strategy of mine to sidestep and do stuff a lot. And I would in this match, I remember sidestepping Vince and death fisting a lot. And I remember hearing him saying, "This guy sidesteps a lot, eh?" And I don't think like sidesteps something you can probably use. I wasn't a tag player, but I feel like sidestep and sidewalk is probably something that get used a lot more in Tekken 5 onwards compared to tag. Like tag was just like a single step.
Yeah, single plane.
Yeah. I mean, they had sidestep and I'm probably going to piss off a lot of enthusiasts talking about that. I don't know anything about tag. I didn't play it a lot. I just loved going back to play machines in that game. But yeah, it was my first encounter with Vince, and he had just picked up the game. So like that was, I feel like really the whole time, that whole stretch of me playing in the arcades was only 2 years, 2005 to 2007. And so I feel like it was a long time from when I first went there to when I first went to the arcades to when I met Vince. But it's probably like maybe 1 or 2 months, you know.
Yeah.
I was playing that much though that seemed like an eternity. It's like he finally appears.
Yeah. you get your moment.
Yeah. So that was the first encounter with Vince. And then he played a lot from there. And I just play him a lot. He played Steve, who was insanely broken in Tekken 5. We actually had a tournament. We had tournaments back then, actually.
Yeah.
Should we go into this?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so we had a Timezone ran the tournaments back then. So for Tekken 5, basically there were 3 versions of Tekken 5. There was the original Tekken 5 release. Then there was like a balancing patch that came out, Tekken 5.1.
Yep.
And then there was the final DR, which was the best version, even though I loved 5.0 because Nina was great. Really, really great. Best Oki ever. Yeah, so you had qualifiers, like you had the store qualifiers, so you had Queen Street Arcade, Queen Street Timezone, and Hunters Plaza Timezone. I don't know if there was another one. It might have just been those 2 for Auckland. Yeah. So each of those stores held a tournament, and then the following weekend there was another tournament taking the winners of those tournaments to clash against each other to see who's going to qualify for Auckland. Hamilton had a tournament. Wellington, I think they might have had 2 scenes in Wellington, but I'm not entirely sure. But basically, these tournaments were to lead to 1 representative from each city. So Auckland, Hamilton, Wellington, Christchurch. I don't know if Dunedin had one. I think they did.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I think they did, but they had a tiny scene, so yeah, I'm not sure. I won't speak on that. Anyway, so I played the tournament, the Queen Street qualifier. I remember in my run, I matched with Casey early on, so this was like a big one for me because I really like if I beat him in this tournament. Going back to that introductory post that I got to the scene from him. But by the way, man, Casey's a really, really cool dude, but he definitely like wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
And it is just what it was. There was there was how can I put it? It was kind of gritty. The arcade scene was kind of gritty.
It was a lot more
raw.
Yeah, I always think of the old the old era of boxing. Like it was like that arcade style, like it was just rough, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure the heinous things people say to each other online is probably like worse, but it's online and everybody's hiding behind a
Yeah.
screen. It's a lot different when you're in person.
Yeah, man.
And Casey's this big, intimidating, buff dude as well. By the way, but anyway, I had a match with him, and I managed to beat him, and that got me into the finals with Vince. And I was just like, I was ecstatic. And the top two qualified, so I didn't even like winning the tournament at that point. It wasn't a big deal to me because I qualified.
That was enough for you. Yeah.
It was enough for me. And then I remember getting into the game, like the first set with Vince, and then I was like, look, you know what? I want to beat him now. I just want to do it. I want to beat him now. And I tried. I really tried hard. So I remember how these matches went too, by the way. I don't know if he does. He probably doesn't. But for me, it was like this big deal, because of how it started for me, like that message to Grimwalk, like, hey, who's the best player? I want to play them and beat them. And so it was like my Nina versus his Steve, and he demolished me. I think it was first to three. So first to three to win the tournament. He demolished me 2 games using his Steve. So I switched to Raven. I actually played Raven because the Tekken 5 demo came out. It had Asuka and Raven on it. And I used like a Game Shark code to remove the time limit and make the life infinite. So I could just sit there playing Raven on this demo disc on PS2. Yeah. And I was able to learn him pretty well. And he had some good tech traps and stuff, like really, really cheap. And they weren't well known. So I managed to take it back 2 more games using Raven against his Steve. And he pulls out Devil Jin. And at this point, the thing with Vince is, like, he's seriously talented and quick at adapting to stuff, and just doing stuff instantly. And I'm not really like that. I'm a guy who really has to grind it out and repeat something until I can get it down. I can't just like pull it out. Zazob's like that as well, actually. But Zazob and Vince, they always really impress me with the way, like, you tell them to do something and they'll just do it. Whereas you tell me to do something at the arcade, I'll be like, okay, maybe in a couple of weeks I'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
So he was like, kind of started to figure out this Raven stuff after 2 games. And he pulled out the Devil Jin, and it was just like wave dashing Mishima stuff all over my face. And it was a close game in there. It was the final round. And I remember he pulled it off with a house sweep into full wall carry, into full wall combo. And that was a pretty sick thing to see, like back then, like just pulling off full staple combos, full carries to the wall and a full wall combo. It's a lot of damage. And everybody was like, whoa. Everybody standing around the machine was like, that's crazy. So yeah, he took that tournament. But we both qualified for the next stage. But then I had a family trip planned, so I had to pull out. So unfortunately, I couldn't compete any further.
Oh, and so wait, who took your place?
I'm not sure. I can't even remember. I think, I don't know what happened with my place. I don't know. I just remember having to pull out.
Oh,
and I feel like that probably would have been my best chance to take a tournament, but even then it was going to be really, really, really tough. I remember back then when I played in that specific tournament, and there were a couple other like weekly Timezone tournaments as well, where you win like $100 on your card.
Yeah.
I remember back then I was never nervous, never ever nervous. And maybe it's because I was like an underdog or whatever, and I didn't have pressure on myself, and nobody else was putting pressure on me, I felt. But anyway, so the Tekken 5.0 Nationals, Mike from Welly, that guy I mentioned earlier, he came up.
Yeah.
And he ended up taking out that tournament. So yeah, that was the Tekken 5 Nationals. In 5.1 came out. I'm not sure actually how long 5.1 was out at the arcades.
I
It was
think it
probably
was,
a while.
yeah.
Like, well, when I say a while, maybe 6 months. It was a while for me if you're playing like nearly every day. 6 months is a long time. Uh, there wasn't really tournaments for 5.1. Uh, and then DR, they had another same setup, like same store qualifiers and all that sort of stuff. But at this point, I was kind of like, I was like one of the favorites to win the thing. It would have been Vince, myself, and Zazob. And then there would have been a few wild cards. Like there was a Japanese Fengwei player back then, Zenki. Who else? And I'm just talking about the Auckland scene as well.
Yeah.
So, like there's great players in Wellington. I don't know if, Mike didn't play. The Toothy played though.
Yeah, Toothy.
Blackout was known as Materia back then. And there's the Christchurch players, Neil and his younger brother, Glenn.
Yeah.
Yeah, both great players. Glenn's an amazing player. Actually, during Tekken 5, I went down to Christchurch for it was like 1 or 2 weeks. I played a lot of Tekken in the arcades there. And I went round to Neil's place and had a session with him and Glenn, played a lot of games. Unfortunately, it was like you only had Tekken 5.0 on PlayStation 2 back then, when DR was already in the arcades. So we were kind of going backwards in a way, but it was still great to hang out with those guys and play Tekken.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so the DR round of the tournaments, it was definitely a favorite, and I guess people were expecting me to just kind of stomp my way through to the finals. That's not what happened. What happened was I played. It might have even been the first round. I'm not sure, but I played against Blah, who was a Ling player. He also played back in Tekken 4. He might have played a bit of tag as well. So he was an older arcade player. He played a really aggressive Ling, and at this point in time, I was playing Heihachi. And I froze. I totally froze and choked and got demolished. And I also learned that playing Mishimas in tournaments is really hard too. But yeah, that was weird for me. So it was like when I was an underdog, I could play nerve-free, like just no nervousness at all, no anxiety. And then when I was kind of known and established, and with a bit of expectation to do something in this tournament, I totally choked. So yeah, that was that.
Yeah, but I mean, we've all had that. I mean, like, it's fair to say that we've all had that moment where, we thought we've had our shit together, and then it could be just that unknown character matchup knowledge, and everything just goes out the window.
Yeah, I mean, I knew the matchup really, really well. It's definitely an unconventional matchup playing against Ling, but I knew it well. I played against Blah a lot. But just all of that information just did not come to me in the game.
Yeah.
And so those were kind of the major tournaments we had back then. There was a what would you call it, like an outfit called Black Box Session, BBS.
BBS, yeah. Yep. No,
Yeah, so they ran console tournaments, and they actually liaised with the Armageddon Expo when it was an Altair Center.
Yeah, like the way they used to do it was like it would be after hours. People could bring their equipment. The real interesting thing is, not many people would know, is that everyone brought their own equipment, even for the LAN events. So you had like dudes rocking up with big CRTs, like at least 8 minimum, rocking up outside the doors at the exact time Armageddon finished, and we're all out there with our consoles, just like, yeah, where are we setting up? It's like we were ready to go.
Yeah, man, it was good.
Oh man, do you feel like were you happy with? Do you feel like you back then were happy with where you were skill wise for DR? Do you feel like you could have had Vince's number?
I think at the very end, I finally did surpass him. Surpass him. But we would have death matches, and I would start to pull ahead and take most of them. And I felt like I really felt like I could probably go toe to toe with everybody in New Zealand and win most of the time.
Yeah,
that's how I felt. And it was the thing with Vince and I. So he played Steve in DR, and I played Heihachi. Heihachi was basically the second best character in the game, and Steve versus Heihachi was a shit matchup for Steve. So, like, that matchup was greatly in my favor anyway. He also played Dragunov. He had stopped playing Devil-Jin. I'm not sure why, because Devil-Jin was the best character in the game in DR. And so yeah, although I would beat Vince, I definitely had the character matchup in my favor. And that was kind of a reverse to, so in 5.0 was definitely even. I played Nina, he played Steve. Then in 5.1, Nina got absolutely gutted. She was just really, really, really bad. So like some of the changes were kind of silly. Like her DF1 was like really negative on block, like, and width. It was like, because in 5.0 it was +1 on block. And it had a just frame follow-up that was completely safe and would put you into her multi-grabs if you got hit by it. But she got nerfed because she was like just far too overpowered in 5.0. So 5.1, she was nerfed, and I still played her. I stuck with her. I was like, I was this Nina loyalist now. She was my character. She was my girl. Yeah. That was it. End of story. So I stuck with her. And he played Devil-Jin. And Devil-Jin was even further ahead of everybody else in 5.1 than he was in DR. So in DR, it was a lot more balanced. But yeah, so 5.1, we would play Devil-Jin against my Nina. And I kind of hated the game back then. I was really frustrated. And then in DR, I played Nina mostly. And towards the end, I always wanted to play Machinist. I always did. This goes back to like me and Jackie messing around. He could pull off electric when God for some pad, like really crisp. And I couldn't. And eventually I practiced enough to the point where I was competent enough to play them and try and get good.
Yeah.
And take games. So yeah, I switched to Heihachi. I was like, I'm gonna play Machinist now, and I'm gonna play top tier, and I'm gonna just be the best I can be.
Yeah.
And it was just really fun. And I always, like, I guess one of the biggest joys for me is just finding out something really, really powerful and abusing it. I like abusing cheap moves.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
Vince was right.
If it's not about just winning, it's about making your opponent salty while you win.
Yeah.
It was about. So yeah, like DR, I felt like I could beat anybody, and then there's kind of like an ending. My whole Tekken 5 arc kind of had the beginning, which you heard, and then there's like the ending. And this guy from Korea, he happened to be out socializing and bumped into one of the guys from the Welly scene. He was in Wellington, by the way. So he was a guy from South Korea, and he was over, I think he was studying maybe, or maybe just like a working holiday.
Yeah.
And he ran into one of the guys from the Wellington scene down in Wellington, and they were having some drinks, and they got to talking about Tekken. And apparently this guy played in Green Arcade in Korea, like the maker for Tekken.
Shit.
So this guy's name was Ryan. So the Wellington guy, Takeoff Heaps, I think he still plays, by the way.
Yeah, Toe. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the one who met Ryan. And they went and played games. Apparently the story was they were still drunk. But this guy Ryan was really sick with Machinist apparently. And he happened to be Kyudan's roommate back in Korea.
No fucking way.
And he said like he talked about how much Kyudan's used to practice.
Holy
just
shit,
on the PlayStation
bro.
playing Tick and Tag. And so he started like talking to Q-Dans on MSN, getting the Tekken stuff. Whatever messenger they used. Learning the stuff in Tekken 5 because he hadn't played since Tekken Tag. And like very, very, very quickly, he demolished the entire Wellington scene. And we all heard about this. So they were like pilgrimages down to Wellington to play this guy.
To seek this mysterious Korean player. Yeah.
So Vince and who went down? So Vince went down, Timmy Flaps went down.
Good old Timmy!
They went down. So those guys went down, and a couple other guys, but they're not in the scene anymore. The guy named Jay, they went down and they played, and they hung out with this guy Ryan. And they made friends and stuff. And the story was he just destroyed everybody. And then Zazob and I were like, we're gonna make a trip. So we did it. We road trip down to Wellington. We stopped in Hamilton and we picked up Coldfire, Jerry, along the way.
Hey!
Yeah. And we went down and we stayed in a backpackers and we met up with them and played and got trashed. And I think there's a few of the recordings of these matches on my YouTube. It was just Ryan DJ. And he came up to Auckland as well and played, and he told us heaps of cool stuff about Tekken Tag 1, a lot of the tech. He definitely introduced the importance of backdash, I feel, to us Aucklanders. Although, by the way, so the thing with the back, like the movement, the Koreans just had this insane movement figured out. And maybe that's why they were so far ahead of everyone else.
Yeah.
Zazob had kind of started doing it a bit, doing a crisp backdash prior to Ryan coming up. It was definitely a thing. I remember Grimwalker, the guy I messaged way back, to find out about who the best players are. He always rated people on how good their BDC was, which wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
For a lot of us. And Cornova, he played back then, by the way. He was always a very, very defensive player, and he had a pretty crisp backdash. He was really hard to catch. But there wasn't a lot of backdash going on. And he was like, this guy, Ryan. So the thing, he played Devilgen, right? He's a Mishima player. There's this thing with Mishimas where if you play Mishimas, like 90%, you're probably really good on 2P and you can't play on 1P. Because that's the golden rule. Easy. Yeah, it's just mechanically easier to do all the Mishima stuff. But Ryan, he was like, no, wait, I don't want to play. I'm way better on 1P. I hate 2P. The reason was because to him, backdash was far more important than wave dash.
Wave dashing, yes.
Yeah. So it was like to him, backdash was everything. Spacing is absolutely everything, and this is like the Korean way. And like he totally demolished everybody, dropped so much knowledge, opened up so much stuff in such a short period of time. Like my mind was blown. After this, I picked up Diligent and I tried my best to get a good backdash. Like just crisp Mishima play.
Yeah.
I was even more in love with playing Mishimas after experiencing that against Ryan. So yeah, that's basically the end. So after that, it was like, I thought I'm hot shit because I kind of got pretty damn good in our local scene. And he just comes along and destroys everybody.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
I think it's a great story.
You flinch. Flinch and he sends you up. Yeah. It's crazy.
It's like you think you know the game to a certain level, and then the veil gets lifted. There's another layer, and then it's just like, shit, there's more to this thing I need to understand.
Yep. So, man, it blew my mind. It really inspired me, but also really got me down because of like how far I would have to climb, like how not even close I was to where I thought I wanted to be. Yeah, it was truly eye-opening to play that firsthand. There were like a couple of like one or two guys who came across who were like students, international students, and they were used to playing in the Korean arcades or the Japanese arcades, and they were really, really good. And they were just like your average scrub over there.
Yeah.
They were always hard as like, there's this new Marduk player. This would be the talk on the New Zealand thread and Tekken Zaibatsu. There's this new Marduk player, and he's from Korea, and he's wrecking everybody. So like, okay, I got to get there. Got to find this guy.
Yeah.
I remember there was a King player. Yeah, it was crazy when people come over from a way more advanced scene.
Yeah.
And you play against them. Like, you really are as good as your scene.
Yeah.
And that's how it was with the arcades, because you got to be, everything's local.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's no online.
But
you're meeting up and you're playing who's in front of you. Whoever's there is there, and you're gonna do what you can to be better than them. But once you're better than them, how do you climb further?
Yeah.
Like, the only way it happens is if that dance takes place where you beat him and then he beats you, and you push each other up.
Yeah.
And a scene can really elevate themselves when you got a bunch of competitive players like that. Definitely.
Especially for the time back then, going overseas to get that experience wasn't really a common notion. So you'd always take advantage of anyone that you'd hear from coming from Korea, or like your mate from the Philippines, or just someone that would give you that extra layer of knowledge.
Yep. It's like that little bit, and just a little bit from a more advanced scene is such an edge. It's a huge edge back then. The information, the information was definitely there. You could definitely find in Tekken 5. You could definitely find it, but it maybe wasn't spoon-fed to you because you're not watching a world tour with like awesome commentators breaking down the game for you. When you're watching high-level players, it was just like you watch a match and you try and guess what they're thinking, guess what they're doing. So try and replicate it.
Yeah. Did you take this newfound love and investment from the game into Tekken 6 and Tekken 6 BR? How did you progress to the next?
Maybe in an alternative timeline that would have happened, but in this timeline, what happened was I kind of journeyed to the world of Azeroth, and I became heavily addicted to World of Warcraft. And that's kind of where my Tekken days ended.
Hey, it was a big game, bro. It was a big game back then.
Yeah, for sure.
But you did used to have casual sets with, you mentioned them, Zarzub and Cornova and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I still kind of came back into the scene every now and then. When Tekken 6 came out, I came and played for like a couple of weeks. I initially enjoyed it. I went straight to Diligent.
Yeah.
Diligent was pretty sick. I remember he had, what did he have? He didn't have the House Sweep launch anymore, but he had like a House Sweep straight into Bound and then a combo. So as long as you could combo off House Sweep, I'm picking Diligent. That was the thing. But the game, it didn't really click for me. I really didn't like the rage system.
It wasn't the Tekken you grew up with.
It wasn't, and I didn't like the bounce system either. Even today, I think the screw system in 7 is a lot better than the bound, but I really just miss the old school juggles.
Yeah,
I miss juggling. I do. But yeah, I mean, I definitely played a bit of Tekken 6. It wasn't the same for me. I wasn't hungry to be really good. I wasn't after you could say I climbed to my peak. Firstly, it was like I was starting to get into World of Warcraft, but also it was kind of like there was nowhere to go. Like, where do I go from here? So before Ryan showed up, we kind of stopped playing as much. Like, I wouldn't see Vince at the arcades much anymore. I wouldn't be there myself too much anymore. The game kind of fizzled out. After the Nationals, actually, I think that's that's kind of where it was. It was like I was really gutted about not getting a shot to play in the nationals because I didn't make the qualifier. I didn't get through the qualifier, you know.
Yeah.
And this actually, you know what? I remember this. Yeah, this is like when T6 console came out.
Yeah.
And Zaza was hosting sessions.
Yep. You had Cornova, Enjoy, BG was there too.
T4 Jin's there.
T4 Jin, Nemesis. Yep.
What was I saying? Last I thought.
You were saying that you weren't playing as much. Vince stopped like playing and showing up.
Yeah, I mean, my motive, like at first, I was really gutted that I lost, and I was really, really angry. I was like on this rampage to absolutely just beat everybody at the arcade, and including Vince, and I did in our next set, but it meant nothing, you know. It was kind of meaningless.
Yeah.
And then he brought it back anyway, and just like I specifically remember the set after the tournament loss. Like it was a few days later that I met him at the arcades, but I specifically remember the set because, you know, I was like, I got to prove something, but I'm not really proving anything. I missed my shot. But yeah, I was winning a whole bunch, and then he switched up, and you know how the mind games are when you're deathmatching somebody, like the momentum swings around really fast sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just keeps building on one side, but this side it like swung around, and then he like really demolished me, and in a way I hadn't been beaten in a long time, and it just kind of shattered my confidence for a while. And I was sad about the game. I was sad about my loss. I was kind of demotivated to play any further than that. And I got into World of Warcraft because that was really taking my interest anyway.
Yeah.
It was Glenn. It was, by the way, the guy who won Tekken 5 DR Nationals from Christchurch, Glenn, Neil's younger brother. He's the one who got me into World of Warcraft in the first place. So.
Oh, he's the one.
Yeah, he totally took me out of the Tekken scene. He destroyed everybody, including me.
Jesus, man. Yeah. Because I think you and me met during the Tekken 6. Did we meet during Tekken 6 or Tekken 5?
Yeah, I think it would have been during Tekken 6.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I felt like I had seen you around during Tekken 5.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I just don't think we probably...
or maybe it might have even been the BBS sessions.
Actually, no, I think it was that, yeah.
Black Box sessions.
Black Box session, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then Ryan showed up, and I don't really remember the time frame. There were like two kind of things to me kind of finishing up being competitive in Tekken 5. It was like Ryan showing up, and I played for a little bit after that, but yeah, I got into World of Warcraft. And then there was like a final Black Box session tournament, and Rambo was there and Richard. They had just started playing at the arcades. Rambo, what's his new tag? The Mysterious River.
Yeah.
And Richard, I don't know what he goes by.
On PC he goes by AMS, but I don't think he had a name in the arcade.
Yeah, back then I don't think he even he did.
Like it was just a blank name. Arcade. I don't think he actually had a name. Yeah.
Yeah, but after a while, like I wasn't really playing, but I just showed up to BBS like, you know, it'll be fine. I'll just play. I'll be the same. But actually, it turns out in my case anyway, if you're not playing all the time, you quickly get rusty. I don't seem to retain whatever skills I do have very well. And also, Richard was really, really good. I remember BG was getting really, really, really good back then. I remember Cornova was getting good. I mean, Cornova's defense was always insane.
Yeah.
I remember that. Even back then, he was like so... It was really frustrating to play him because he was very defensive, and his defense was really good. He would like break just about every throw. He would block your lows on reaction.
I know that for Tekken 6, he was definitely strong. You mentioned Richard. He was definitely top 5 at least. Like, definitely top 5.
Yep. And of course, Zazop.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I haven't said near enough about. Zazov, I met him in Yifans. He was playing Julia, and I mean, we just became great friends and rivals, like pretty instantly, really. He was playing Julia, which wasn't a very strong character, and I was playing Nina. Like, this is the original Tekken 5.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of sidestep stuff, him and I kind of figured out, I think, back then. It was kind of funny how players would bring something new and then it would kind of propagate around the scene.
Yeah.
Like, it will spread, tech would just spread. People would bring new skills to the table and other players would adopt it. That's kind of how it was. And so him and I, like, we played a lot together. We figured out a lot of stuff together. Like, I remember we would play at Yifans, then we'd go home, and we'd each be on our own bus home, and we'd be like texting each other, like setups or like ideas or combos or things to try. We played a lot and we discussed the game a lot, and we had a lot of home sessions too. So yeah, and to this day, he's one of my best friends. Like, even when I stopped playing Tekken, him and I still talk like every single week.
Yeah.
I got into, after World of Warcraft, I got into StarCraft too, and he got into that as well. So like, we still game together.
Yeah, no, he's definitely one of the OGs. Good dude, and yeah, been playing just as long as like you back in the beginning. I know you didn't touch Tag 2, because but just an opinion of it, like it was a real hot mess, like damage scaling, fucking almost death combos from ridiculous yeah, it's yeah, I never saw you play Tag 2, and I can understand why.
Yeah, I mean, I did dabble. So, I remember going to Armageddon and they had a Tekken Tag 1 tournament, because Tekken Tag Remaster, or Tekken Tag HD, Namco did a Tekken Tag HD release. And with that, they included a Tag 2 demo where you could play like Kazuya, and I think it was just Kazuya and Devil Kazuya. So I went with Zazob and he ended up taking out that tournament. And then I remember going to his place and playing a bunch of sessions with the demo. And I think that might have been one of the streams. Like, I think he started streaming those sessions back then with the demo. But yeah, I mean, because I didn't play 6, there was so much stuff I had no idea about. And then Tag 2, it just seemed like everything in 6 plus a whole bunch of new stuff. It was just really, really overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
I did get a copy of the game and I played online a bunch. But I didn't really. I quickly dropped it. Like,
yeah.
I got the beatdowns. Players were kind of like way above me, and I just really wasn't motivated to improve.
Yeah.
And I wasn't motivated to do that grind again. But yeah, that was. I heard it was really adored by like the more hardcore players, and there's a bit of sadness that the Tag 2 scene wasn't awesome.
Yeah, well, there were people who, I mean, obviously there were people that weren't fans of it, and even some were saying that could have potentially been the end of the series, because it just wasn't, unlike 7, it wasn't really catered to bring in new audiences, new players, because of the whole, the juggling system and the combos, and just like the frame data alone for that many characters is insane.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming.
But now you look at like Tekken 7, like what's it like to see Tekken spearheading the NZFGC? The fact that it's actually a main title compared to what it was in the beginning, which was a second, third-rate title at events. Now that we have outside arcade events.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? StandingFierce was kind of just starting up. I think, anyway. I remember maybe Dave came across to the NZ thread and posted up, say, hey, like, we're starting this, this organization where we can put events on and we can all get together and play these games we love. do tournaments and that kind of stuff. So I think back then, other than BBS, StandingFierce was just getting started. I didn't know a lot about any other fighting game. I just loved Tekken. I remember Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was super popular back then as well, and it was an older game at the time. And I think Street Fighter 4 might have come out, and they definitely got a lot of interest from some of the Tekken players. So I was a little bit salty actually that
just after your time, right?
Yeah, I can't. The time, since it's so long ago, the time frames, like, I don't specifically remember what came first in what order, but I remember Zazal got into Street Fighter and he started messing around in Street Fighter 4 a bit.
Yeah.
And now he's like, he plays both Tekken and Street Fighter to a very high level.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, actually, I did travel to Wellington, Zaza, to play in a Tag 2 tournament. I mean, I just wanted to travel and have fun. I wasn't really into it for the games because I didn't really play the game much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool just to go down there and catch up with the guys again, like T4 Jim. Yeah. Sorry, I've lost. What were we talking about?
No, sorry. Do you feel like Tekken 7, just in terms of the progression of the series, do you feel like Tekken 7 has earned its spot? Like it really is?
Oh, right, yeah, the forefront. I mean, actually, like, I think it's a great game. I think they've done really well. It's. I mean, when I came back when Tekken 7 came out in 2017 on console, I think it had been out a couple of years arcades prior to that. I think it had the whole 7.0, 7.1, and then full expansion treatment, right? And this one that we've got on console is like, is it BR or something like that?
Oh, like F? Oh, yeah, like the fade. Yeah, it's like the FR arcade.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome to see Tekken so popular and so alive today. The Tekken World Tour is awesome. During this quarantine, like, I don't know what it was. You know what I think it was? It was the fact that Ganryu's finally out in Tekken 7. And that's why I came back to the game, because I also played Ganryu a lot at the end of... He was basically my favorite character to play other than the Mishimas in DR. He was really cheap at DR. And, if it's cheap, I love it. And I was kind of disappointed that he wasn't initially out when Tekken 7 came out.
Yeah.
In 2017, I was like, "Where's Ganryu? Where's Ganryu?" And I went to that Southern Cross Up. I played Nina. Played a bit of Paul. I ended up playing Diligent again. But I wanted Ganryu for two reasons back then, and I was disappointed he wasn't there. Like, one, I really enjoyed the character, and two, he's not difficult. He doesn't have like really technical input like Mishimas do, or like Nina does for some of her stuff.
Yeah.
And coming back, I was kind of criticized every time I went into Tekken. I came back to Tekken 6, tried to play in tournaments, but I'd always try to do what people would call like hard combos, and I'd drop them every single time instead of just going for the staple and getting stuff done. And I didn't want that to happen when I came back to Tekken 7. I just wanted to try and get competent and be competitive again.
Yeah. And
I really wanted to be playing Ganryu to do that. I didn't really want to play Mishimas, even though I love them. Like, I got to put it down. I'm not gonna find myself putting in the effort to be that good.
Yeah.
And then when you compete, like, everything, like all of the pressure that comes with competing, you put that on top of like the harder execution required for Mishimas. It's too much.
Yeah. Well, I just find it's funny that I see a lot of Ganryu players. He was always a character that was never appealing or popular, but I think the development team have done a good thing keeping these characters off the books, because they've, when they've released Gangryu and Lei and Anna, and they've been like a lot of people have been playing them after they released.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I came back because I was like, I'm gonna try Ganryu, and I tried it. I was like, I was addicted again the first day. And I had just started streaming as well because I wanted to stream the Final Fantasy VII remake. I streamed a couple of other games, and then I thought I'd just jump on stream and try Ganryu out, and I did, and I fell in love with the game again. And I spent a whole bunch of this quarantine watching all of the Tekken World Tour that I've missed over the past couple of years, because I came back briefly in 2017 and then I dropped it again.
Yeah.
And it's just, I would have loved to have something like this back in Tekken 5 days.
Yeah. I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And and you know what? I remember thinking this when I played StarCraft 2, because StarCraft 2 had a really awesome esports scene. StarCraft 2 pretty much gave Twitch its start. It was like the most popular game for quite a while and gave a lot of traffic to Twitch before League of Legends got very, very popular. And they had they had world leagues. They had tournaments all the time. They had celebrity commentators, these guys with such character and charisma. And they had the players. It was just awesome to see. And I remember thinking back then, man, why don't they have this for Tekken? Why doesn't Tekken have a scene like this? And now it exists, and now it's so popular. It's awesome. It's great.
When I saw you walk up to the tournament that LPL had at Sky City, I will be honest, I got a bit emotional, man. It was like seeing an old friend from a long, he went on an OE for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden he's just right in front of you. And I was it was emotional, man. I was just like, holy shit, hey!
Yeah, it was crazy coming back too, and meeting a bunch of the guys that are still around. I remember bumped into Daz, goes by Pinolicious now, Kid Liger, everybody, just everybody. It's awesome. Chrono, hadn't hung out with Chrono in a long time. All the peoples, and then even Vince playing online. He plays online on Steam, so we've had a bunch of games too.
That's good.
Back in 2017, we actually set up a few sessions back then.
That's good.
I had Vince Round and Zazob and FJ right in my place when Tekken 7 came out, and we had some games. So it was good. I fully got back into it that year, and it was awesome to see what they had done with the game. The slow motion stuff, the rage out, it just adds so much hype.
That's epic, man. Yeah.
And they've really done a lot with. They've just really, really made it accessible. I think, despite the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of the screw system, I think it really it kind of streamlines a lot of the combos and Tekken, and it gets players it's easy to wrap your head around. Okay, this is my screw move, so I do some filler, then I screw, then I do the ender, and I try and make the wall if I can. I think it's just it's much more learnable now, but it's still a really hard game to get into.
Yeah. No, it definitely is harder to get into, but easy to digest. And you mentioned
that's another thing. They fixed the Oki, the throw breaks. And I think the screw system makes the combos a lot more digestible. So I think those three things really do make the game far more accessible, and a lot of the new characters, it's really balanced. Tekken 7 is really, really balanced compared to even DR. DR was pretty damn balanced at the time, compared to the ones prior. Tekken Tag, I think it was I think there might have been a handful of characters that were viable in Tekken Tag 1. And then Tekken 4, it was 4 characters were viable. And then Tekken 5, 4 characters were viable. Steve, Brian, Fing. And then in DR, Heihachi, Devojin, Kazuya were above everybody else. In some cases, quite a bit with some of the matchups. But then you had you still had strong characters. You still had Julia, you had Ganryu, you had Raven. Oh boy, I can't remember. It was like a lot more of the characters were viable, and then you had some really trash characters who just could not
Who
compete.
just could not compete, not on any level. Yeah.
Yep. And then in Tekken 7, like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not easy
Seems like
to
so many characters are strong.
discern. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, of course, you get the best of the best players, and now they play this for a living, so they're really all in.
Yeah.
The pro players, and of course, those guys, they're gonna make a tier list matter. So you're gonna see the strongest characters always making appearances, but still, it seems to be really, really balanced, which is cool.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, there's a lot of a lot of the new characters are very easy, like just very simple, basic inputs and that sort of stuff. Very bread and butter, easy to pick up.
Yeah. It is good that Tekken 7's easy to take on board. You mentioned it as well, Tekken Zaibotsu. It used to be the place where people shared, their opinions, their tech, ratting out on who's being cheap. And I just thought I'd, briefly mention it as well. It's a shame that doesn't compete. Obviously we have our, the Tekken Discord pretty much does what this website did anyway. And it's the same for the New Zealand Discord. It did what it needed to do in the pre-Tekken 7 Tag 2 era, because once YouTube and Discord and Twitter started taking, it was like, we didn't really need this.
Yeah, and then actually a couple of the American players kind of started some stuff as well, like Rip, who's a commentator now, started up that Level Up Your Game. I think it was a website or maybe a series, but it was just like giving guides and getting people into the game, breaking it down.
Yeah.
And avoiding the puddle. Is YouTube streaming. Yeah, like nowadays, if you want to learn, you just go watch somebody's stream, or you watch the tournaments.
Yeah, or you can even ask the players themselves.
Just YouTube the matches from that. That's basically what I've done to learn Genryu stuff. Is like, okay, who's the best Genryu player? Oh, Saint plays Genryu. YouTube Saint Genryu and watch the matches.
All right, man. Well, I'm just going to ask you a question. It ties back to the arcades. Like, have you ever come across your fair share of trolls, bullies at the arcade? People just trying to, have you ever run into shit stirrers at the arcade?
I don't really have any negative experiences at the arcade, but there's like, you would key charge. There's key charging back then.
Yeah.
and to key charge somebody when they're like physically something else than doing it online. Sometimes players would get really, really angry when they're losing, or even if they're winning, just to prove a point, and they shake the entire arcade cabinet.
Slap their hand down. Yeah.
Yeah, like there'd be some slamming. There was some rages. And I'd be lying if I tried to say that I didn't have any moments of rage. I certainly did.
That's all good, man.
But yeah, probably the biggest one was like when I came home that one evening and went on to read up on NZ Thread, and there's this like scathing write-up about how cheap I am as a player.
Yeah, that must have hurt you a little bit, right?
It really did. I was like, man, really? I'm just trying to get up in here and be the best. And now, like, my playstyle is not respected.
Because, the New Zealand Tekken scene has come across its unique individuals. Like you've had there's the king of Street Fighters. There was Lackey a year or so back. Unlucky, Cornova silenced him like 10-0 in an online lobby.
Oh,
yeah.
I missed. Actually, I missed a lot of this stuff. I remember. I think it might have been during Tekken 6. It was like maybe Tekken King or something like that.
Oh God! Don't say that name.
I remember like a bunch of.
Oh yeah! Oh man, you are so glad you missed out on that anime filler. It was just anime filler. Okay, like
yeah.
I feel like I need to address this like just just slightly.
Okay, because
So,
I don't really know what
yeah,
happens.
okay. Well, let me educate you, son. So you had some guy coming up to the arcade saying, "Oh, like who's the best?" You tell him, and oh well, Zarzop. Oh, I've seen him. He doesn't play that good. He plays like shit. This is someone saying it to you point blank in the face, saying, "Oh no,
Okay.
he's not good. He plays like shit. Zarzop, he plays like shit." And then just as you're about to explain who Zarzop is, he'll say, "Oh no, but I'm the best. I'm the best in New Zealand." And I'm thinking, are you now? Okay, one of those guys. And this,
I was one of them.
but nothing like this. This is just like you have people that kind of take the mickey and know that they're doing it for a laugh, for a joke. But this guy was so
serious?
he was so serious. Like he actually believed he was the best, and it wasn't uncommon that a few other people had that same experience. Like they were just minding their own business. This guy approaches them, starts talking about Tekken and how he's the best, but no one knows who he is, what competitions he's played, what he's won. He wouldn't even play because he'd just say he plays on PlayStation. But why go to the arcades and talk about yourself? Why talk up about yourself, but not actually deliver the goods, And so, yeah, I mean, I had it rough because I actually ran into this guy on numerous occasions out of the arcade at one of my old jobs. I went out to dinner for once. I went out to dinner with friends and I saw him once. Yeah, he was interesting. Who am I talking about? Yeah, I'm talking about the one, the only Tekken King. Jesus, I wish I would have never said that name again. You are so lucky you missed out on this. So basically, he heard about this Timezone tournament. He rang up and said, "Okay, I'm going to rock up with my boys." And in that moment, I thought, "Okay, this shit ends today. Put him up against one of the best players, and we can end this." And so I don't want to say we rigged the bracket, but Zarzop got put up to the plate because if you gave him a win against any other player, you know what I mean? That would be enough. That would still be enough ammo for him to continue acting
you run with it
the way that he is. Yeah. So me and a few guys were like, no, this ends today. Put him up against one of, Zarzop got put up.
He's well standing one comp.
Yeah.
Still.
Bro, the worst thing is that he rang up saying that he was running late. I think we waited like 20 minutes, half an hour for the time, for the arcade tournament. Yeah. And I mean, I know we're not conscious if NZFGC wise for time, but arcade tournaments, they start on time.
Yep.
It was like, yeah. It was
late.
Yeah.
Plays Zarzop.
Yeah, nah, I'm being honest, bro, I wish it was me. I really wish it was me, but wanted to end it, so yeah. But it was
so he got put in his place in the ultimate way.
Yeah, I mean, he's an example of what can happen when you truly believe in yourself and it's all based on lies, in your head. But that was the scary thing because he was never taking it as a joke. He was being very serious about it. So yeah, it was a real scary time. It was a real scary thing to not to deal with him, but I just mean in terms of trying to end this thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. That's something interesting is because Tekken's always been pretty popular in New Zealand. Like people would get it on PlayStation and they'd battle with their friends and they'd think they're hot shit, they're beating their friends up. They'd always say, "Hey, I play Tekken. I'm real good, let's play." And I found like once I started playing in the arcade scene and getting really, really into it, there was always like a nervous conversation because I used to be one of these guys too, playing on console,
Yeah.
And I never entered any scene. And so, you'd meet people and they'd be like, "Oh, I play Tekken, let's go." I wouldn't want to play them because it's going to be just such a beatdown.
Yeah.
And that's not really the case anymore because there's like the big online scene.
Yeah.
So, yeah, people now they can play online and they'll run into like Zarzop, they'll run into Cornova, they'll run into everybody else who's just so good now. The scene, the skill level now, like on average across all the players, is so high.
That's actually really high. Yeah.
Like compared to back then.
Also, you mentioned online. People can kind of hide online. They can act all tough and very threatening. But obviously, this is back when it's like, no. This is actually in person. You need to front up and admit like what you're saying is fact and how you do it by playing. But it just never made sense to me why he would always say it so freely, but then you ask him why isn't he playing? He's like, I don't play on the machine, I play console. It's like, well then why are you even telling me this,
Interesting character for sure.
Yeah,
maybe he's one of a kind. I'm trying to think. Like,
I don't think anyone's ever come close to him, to be fair. Other people have surfaced, but when they've been put in their place, they're being humbled and they realize it. With him, it was a bit hard. Like, even after we thought, I don't think this is the end. Yeah.
It really is a completely different world now compared to like when you'd show up in the arcades to play. Like it was kind of intimidating actually, just to put your coin down on that screen. So the rule is like, as you know, if you want to turn and there's already people playing, you chuck your coin in the corner of the screen. That signals that if this side loses, you're up next.
Yeah.
So like Friday nights, the Yifans, there'd be like a whole bunch of $1 coins on each screen. Because it was so popular on Friday nights, that was the time to go. Everybody would be there after work or after school. But just like stepping up, and then you're gonna play in front of everybody. There's generally a crowd around watching you. That was such a cool atmosphere. I really miss that. It's a lot different than just like going online in your room in your underwear. Just go online and play.
Yeah, for me, I actually enjoyed when someone would put their $2 coin or token on my machine, because it meant that they're initially thinking that I'm going to lose in the set, and it's just that whole thing of like, okay, I'm really putting up a fight now.
That's funny you mentioned that. I've never really thought about that, but I had that exact feeling every time it happened to me. Like, oh, you really gonna try and take my side? I'm not gonna lose, man. I'm changing this.
Yeah.
I'll be 2 rounds down. And like, oh, you're gonna put your coin on my side? No, nobody. No.
Yeah. I remember one match I was playing and some guy put his coin down, and I did do a side eye. I was like, "Are you serious? I'm up 2 rounds. Like, how do you think I'm going to lose this?" Yeah.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to be strategical about it too. Like maybe you want to play against a certain player.
Yeah.
So like you see that certain player's up next on the other side, and you think he's likely going to win. So you put your coin on the other side ahead of time. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like if Tekken King was just more, just being himself and actually understood that, there is a scene, there is a system, I don't think it would have ended the way that it did.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just, I don't know, maybe he's special.
Yeah,
because oblivious.
Yeah, well, I mean, because, people who can be trolls can be reformed. You know what I mean? Like they understand, and then I don't want to mention anyone in particular, but people can accept the system and then just be a part of it. But then there are those that really try to fight against it to try to prove that there's something more. And with him, I don't know. Like it meant something to him, to be some champion of Tekken or whatever. Yeah,
I'm trying to think if we had any. I mean, there was one character. Back in, I'm gonna throw his name out there too. Everybody loves this guy. His name is Big B.
Shit! Yeah,
he was a Mishima player, and he only respected Mishima players, nothing else.
Everyone else was like, nah.
He respected the old school days. He really, really respected Vince, and he had this term, manual, and that's how he would describe somebody pulling off like really like slick Mishima stuff, like wave dash cancels, back dash cancels, electrics. You're really manual if you can pull off that stuff.
Yeah,
that's really manual. And so he made that term, and we all used it. we all used it. He's a funny dude. Big B.
Big B. Did you know that Timezone closed, bro?
DK time zone?
Yeah.
Oh wait, yeah, I was thinking like Yufan's closed, but Yufan's closed a while ago. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
seeing
Unfortunately,
in
yeah,
in Discord. Yeah, I did see that.
bro. So yeah, so
Man,
Fans like closed down. They went upstairs. I think they had like a third less of the machines that they had, and ultimately it was just online
it just
gaming.
didn't
It did
make
its
it.
yeah. But then with Timezone, it was different because they shared an entrance with Burger King, right? So with this whole lockdown thing, if Burger King was shut, Timezone had to be shut. Like they both shared the same entrance. So it was just one of those things where it was like it literally was two birds with the one stone. And because
Oh,
Tekken wasn't updated, it was still vanilla, whereas the console was the current version. So it was really upsetting that they closed. The announcement came out, and then people just kind of were like, "Okay, cool." Like it didn't really like the
it
news.
didn't matter because nobody played Tekken there anymore.
Well, no one played arcade. Like no one's playing arcades anymore. Uni's not on. No one's at work in town. Leave. It was just like holy shit. Yeah. So now we've had two of our like the cornerstone arcade places both gone. Yeah,
It's really sad. End of an era.
it is. Yeah.
This technology is taking us this way. I remember when I was playing Tekken 5 at the arcades, I remember thinking how great it would be to be able to play online.
Yeah.
To just be able to go online from home and play Tekken just as we were in the arcades. And now it's not quite there. It's just about there, but like with the latency and that kind of stuff, it's not a complete offline still better. But playing online is not the same. It's really not the same as playing back in the arcades for me. And I guess that's going to be a rarer and rarer experiences. Like only us oldies have those memories and have those experiences.
Yeah.
But it was like just a very unique thing to have. It was a great way to come together and play games. And actually, I really found a community of friends like when I came to the arcades. And
Yeah.
I know people still do that when they get into a new gaming scene online and stuff. But yeah, it was really cool for me to just have like all these new friends with similar interests, and we'd hang out like every day. We'd play at the arcades. We'd go and eat and call it a day, and we'd do it all again.
Yeah.
It was great, and people get to do that with RAM bets and stuff. Unfortunately, not now because of what's going on in the world. But
yeah,
it's the end of an era.
I remember accumulating like 5,000 tickets. Because actually, it should be fair to mention the card, the system. So you could get like a top-up card, and you put money on it and you play the games. If you got a basic membership, I think if you got a basic card, it meant that you topped the card up $80, and this doesn't include double dollars. So if you topped up 40, you got 40. It wasn't 80 allocated on the card.
Yep.
If you got a gold card, you topped up 200, and you got one free game. One free game a day, unless as long as you had credit. With a platinum card, you got 2 free games a day. But how much? Yep. Okay, yeah, here we go. This is going to be some. How much was it to get a platinum card?
How much was it? Was it 1,000?
No, it
was it
more.
1,000 to get? Or was it more? Was it more? Do I really want to know? Do I really want to know?
Yeah.
No. How much was it? Was it 2,000?
2,000. Yeah.
It was
$2,000 on a fucking arcade game. Jesus.
Yeah, man.
That was the arcade life. Yeah,
that was the arcade life. So I actually think because most of us were all uni students. Like some of the older players, they were like working full time, so they could afford to play a lot of games, but they didn't have the same amount of time to commit to it. Whereas the students had more time, but generally less money.
Yeah.
I was really fortunate to get a decent job straight out of high school. So I worked all holidays, and I worked 1 or 2 days a week. So I had all this money. I was just blowing it on Tekken. Yeah, but that might have been one of my edges. Actually, it was like I had more arcade spending power than your average uni student.
Yeah.
back then. So yeah, I think I probably played and spent more than maybe most.
Yeah.
More than maybe most. I definitely spent a lot. I
It's-
remember, you know what? I remember at the time feeling really guilty about how much money I spent. Um, it was a lot. I could have done. I
nah,
could have done much more productive things with that money,
hey,
but now looking back, it was one of the best times of my life, and I wouldn't trade it.
okay, well, I'm the opposite. In the moment, I'm like, hey, it's training, it's learning about the game, it's an investment. And now that arcades aren't a thing, I'm like, yeah, $2,000. Fuck. Fuck. Or also, brief shout out to the arcade players from back in the day. These are just some people that, like, I'm sure that we both know, but
Oh
these are people
man,
that we've.
let's work through this.
I mean, some of these guys still play, but it's just like you agree with me, bro. You actually meet some interesting cats at the arcade if they give you the time,
Yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
it's a shame that some haven't continued on the grind, but there's some dudes that I've had some good moments from the arcade, and I'll never forget them, let alone the people. Yeah,
There's this thing where when you play a competitive game and it's one on one, like Tekken, um, you're really trying to get into your opponent's mind space, and he's trying to do the same to you, right?
yeah,
And I think this goes for competition in general, but you really start to develop a picture of this person's personality based on their playstyle. You know,
yeah,
I don't know. I think this happens a lot. It definitely happened for me, and so back then, a lot of us were maybe quite shy. We wouldn't talk to each other. We'd be some awkward like eyebrow raises, and like we'd play, and then there wouldn't be a lot of talking,
yeah,
and we'd go home and post on the forums, and then others would just click, and others would be much more comfortable talking to people. But yeah, you meet a lot of people, but as you said, if you get the opportunity to, and a lot of the times back then, I didn't really, with a lot of players, I didn't talk to too much.
yeah,
And turns out they're like awesome people and still around. Like for example, Corno, he was always very, very quiet. Back then, he was a good friend of Jamie Zazov's. I didn't know him back then very well, but I knew his play style, and I was like, I honestly like, I would hunt him down. I remember hunting him down. He'd be really hard to beat. He's always a real challenge. And I enjoyed the games, but I also really enjoyed just trying to beat him because his playstyle was so frustrating. I really wanted to make him feel the same frustration that he was giving me. I don't know if I succeeded or what, but we never talked. But he stayed in the scene, and I think the scene developed, and I don't know, maybe it became more inviting, more friendly. He had the sessions with Jamie and stuff. And then when I'd come back, I'd have some actual conversations with the guy, and he's awesome. He's a cool dude. He's a really cool dude.
I mean, I know.
But
Yeah, you go, man.
yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
no, you go. You go.
I was just thinking like that. That was like the biggest. And BG, he had a nickname as chessboard hat guy back then. He always wore this like checkered hat,
yeah.
right? He wouldn't talk. I don't think he was close with anybody. I'm not really sure. I kind of chased him around too because he would give me that same level of frustration that Cornova did. So I always try and get my coin on the other side to play him. And just trying to read somebody's personality through their play style. I would do it, and I think this guy's such an asshole. He's so cheap. But he's like the nicest dude, man.
Yeah, no, he does, man.
When you hang out with him.
He smokes a lot. He smokes a lot as well, man. I'm surprised. Like the first time I ever chatted to BG, like I think like as you do, like when you finish the session, like I just leave Timezone at Burger King, and then just have like 5-10 minute chat. And I think he smoked like 2 or 3 cigarettes. I'm just like, holy shit.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if you're a smoker, you probably get to chat to them then, because our smokers always like congregate and
Always
socialize outside when they're having a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. Like I said, Timezone and earphones are closed. Like the competitive arcades don't exist anymore. It's all about providing some kind of entertainment outlet rather than competitive arcade gaming. The whole prizes for tickets or prizes for tokens kind of thing. I think there is 2 arcades that are in Auckland. I know this is one of them. This is Game On. This used to be the old Timeout that was underneath the cinemas.
Okay.
Our tier center.
Yep.
So they moved downstairs. It looks like they've got a bigger space. I would say they have just a bit of a less presence of arcade machines. But
More the like family friendly stuff.
like photo
Oh,
booths.
like the what's the new one in the new market complex?
Oh, we're gonna get to that. Archie Brothers.
Oh, we're gonna get to that? Okay.
Yeah.
Archie Brothers, yeah. Yeah,
like this is probably more the conventional. This is more the kind of conventional. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of what we're getting to, because I guess traditional arcades can't survive. It can't compete if it doesn't have any online aspect. Because I know Take-Two briefly had like an online thing. Timezone had a machine where you could view like cards from players around the world, and it would actually have like the matches recorded and stuff.
Oh, right.
It had something
matches from other places in the world.
Yeah, you could kind of watch matches in that. I mean, it's arcades are a shadow, I guess, of their former selves. It's just about entertainment, Like I miss the competitive side that it had.
Yeah, this Timeout, they had their own scene, their own like Tekken 5 scene. It was cool. Like, so you could like wander over there, and there'd be all these different players, like sit down and play a whole bunch of new people, and maybe some of them would come across to Earphones or Timezone. And there were players that would only play at Earphones. There were players that would only play at Timezone.
Yeah, there was a stigma about that, because people would say if you're starting out, you should go to Earphones, but then when you wanted to actually get stronger, you go to Timezone.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely played them both.
I think in terms of if you're still too nervous or afraid to actually play like decent players.
Oh, right. So say again.
I mean, I think I started out at eFans, and it was good playing people, but obviously I would hear of names like Zazob and BG and stuff, and there would always be a fear of going to Timeout, because fighting to get a game and actually staying on the machine was obviously a lot difficult than eFans.
Right. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe Timezone was more dominant for Tekken 6. That might have been the case. And I guess I was kind of always the one hogging the machine back then too, for the most part. I was always sitting down playing. So yeah, I'm not really sure.
No.
I'm not really sure.
Have you ever been to this place, the Archie Brothers?
Yeah, I have once.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, it just looks like a good place to have fun, take your girlfriend out on date night. Yeah, what do you think of it? Yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
No, yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun. And I had the exact same. I had a lot of nostalgia with how quickly I was spending money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of nostalgia. That's the arcades.
Yeah, it's a cool carnival vibe. The food looks great, but yeah, once again, no competitive edge. No fighting games. Claw token machines. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Just all family friendly fun stuff. I guess that's what it's got to be. It's like physically having fun with friends and family.
Yeah.
Not competing against them, because you can do that online now. And it's far easier to do it online. And it just wouldn't make money, Yeah. Imagine paying $1 to play a single game, and if you lose, you lost $1.
Yeah.
Or even $2 in some cases.
Yeah.
It's just unfeasible when you can go online and just play. Buy the game once for like $100, and you're done.
Yeah. I mean, it is in Westfield, so people will generally do things in a mall. They'll shop, they'll maybe see a movie, and then, oh yeah, we'll go down and have some games at Archie Brothers. I feel like the aspect of arcades will still be around, but like I said, the competitive side, it's just not. There's no online, so there's no existence.
Yeah, I think sadly it's not going to be there. I mean, maybe I'm not sure what kind of scene racing games had, or the driving games. Like Maximum Tune was really popular back then, and Initial D. Um, and you need kind of more dedicated hardware. Like you need dedicated hardware for fighting games, but it's pretty easy to get your hands on either a pad or a stick nowadays.
Yeah.
And saying that, you could buy a steering wheel. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's just this is the way the market's gone. This is where technology's gone, and yeah, we're not going to see the same competitive, in-person arcade scenes anymore.
Do you feel like any businesses who try to have or replicate an arcade style experience should include some competitive aspect, or should it literally just be tokens, money for entertainment now?
Um, I don't know if it'll be feasible, like in terms of like competitive video games. Yeah, I wouldn't know the economics of it, but I mean, they're kind of competitive, right? Like you're competing against your family. They're not cutthroat.
Yeah.
There's like air hockey's always fun. That I love that game, by the way. That one where you
Oh,
gotta
you do?
stop. Yeah, very, very simple. Um, yeah, I don't know if a business should put in there in terms of like the economics of it. Maybe if they're passionate about it.
Yeah. I mean, e-cafes could still e-cafes could, still do like console setups and maybe have some arcade sticks spare. I think there was like a net cafe in town that used to do that.
Oh yeah, that they had
Net play or something.
yeah, they had tournaments too, didn't they?
Yeah, they had tournaments.
Yeah,
They
I
provided
remember.
sticks. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember going to a tournament. I think even the net cafe scene's not as thriving as it once was, right?
mm,
I know they still exist. I'm not too sure to what extent. Um, yeah, but I was thinking like, we online just really doesn't cut it, and we need to play offline and in person. That's fighting games. It's
that's how
maybe
that's
the
how it began.
technology will
Yeah,
get there. Yeah, like maybe one day it'll be perfectly same. Maybe I'm not sure.
yeah,
I'm not sure if that's possible. Maybe it is. Maybe it already exists in some games. Apparently, some of these like Killer Instinct apparently has really really good net code.
yeah. Apparently, one of the
Um,
best.
and maybe it feels the same as offline.
Mm,
But I think we need like it'll be cool to have a spot like a spot set up. You'd have the consoles in the game set up, and the community could rock up in person, almost like rocking up at the arcades, right?
yeah,
Um, like it would be really cool to have a permanent spot for that, but I'm just not sure how that could be like economically feasible.
yeah,
Maybe somebody here who in the community who really loves it starts it as a passion project, and they have a little bit of extra finances,
yeah,
and maybe charge like membership fees.
yeah. Actually, that could be good.
Club, fighting game club.
So, like with Tekken, would you say, like with Tekken 7 at least, with the way that it's been treated, how it's been balanced, do you feel like Michael Murray and Harada did make the perfect team?
Oh, that's a good question because honestly, I've just been getting caught up on that. Like this whole last this during the quarantine. Like I watched a lot of Tekken World Tour. I've tried to catch up on things. I actually watched a lot of the Wave Dash podcast.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Yeah,
yeah, I think I might have watched every single episode. There's like 9 episodes that I saw. Um, so I don't know what it's hard to say really. Like, do you mean have they made a good team in terms of balancing the game and keeping it alive?
yeah, because like obviously in the recent weeks, months, just questions on balancing and why the hell Fakumram is dodging so many lows,
Yeah, and then the whole the changes with the Mishimas,
Yeah,
the house sweep
reverting the wave
doesn't
dash and the sweep of the electric.
it didn't make a lot of sense at all, really. And then buffing electric to its former glory, which was, I always thought it was ridiculously OP, but I didn't care. I didn't care because it was hard to do, and then when I could do it, I was like, awesome, I'm part of the cool kids club. uh, uh, but yeah, I think in Tekken 6, the electric got nerfed a lot in terms of its whiff recovery. So like, you can't just throw it out all the time. In Tekken 5, you can just about throw it out, and it's really hard to whiff punish. And now it's kind of the same again in Tekken 7. They buffed it back to its former glory. Yeah, I don't know what the direction is, maybe they buff because they want certain characters to show more in the world tour. Like maybe that's how they balance it. Maybe that's their whole philosophy. I'm not really sure what and they don't share it either. Yeah, I feel like that's like Tekken 7 is a really, really great game, but there's still a lot of improvements that could be had. I think it's still really hard to get into. I do. I think it's a lot to learn. There's like all of these strings and stuff that will absolutely blow you up. But if you figure out how to defend against them, these like most of the moves become entirely useless, and characters have like maybe 10 moves that they use instead of the whole 100 move list, 100 moves in the command list that everybody has. I don't know. I think it'll be really cool if they took a few pages from like Western developers, like Blizzard, and I think Riot and Valve. When they patch a game, they generally put out like their thoughts and their reasonings and their whole goal with what they're trying to do and making these changes. Like, we think, we've observed that this character is winning too much at a certain level, and we think this might be a good change to help bring them more online. It seems Namco doesn't really do that with their patches; they just kind of drop it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard to know what's happening, and like the watching the like Evo, was it Evo Japan? It was like 7 Leroys.
Oh yeah.
And then the Hero Julia in the final.
Yeah.
that was kind of rough, but then it was like there was so much hype for the character, right? Leroy.
Yeah, you'll never see that many Julia fans in a tournament. Like, it was just unprecedented, man.
True that. There's no Julia fans. She's cheap. Cheap, not as cheap as Leroy. Yeah.
So you feel like after lockdown, what's the first thing that the Tekken developers need to do?
I wish they would just be transparent with their what their directions, what they're trying to do, who they're trying to balance it for. To have like a active development team, they have to fund it somehow, right? And they fund it, I guess, with DLC, and they fund it with the sponsorship, like the advertising on the Tekken World Tour. So they always, I don't know, I guess they, when they release a character for that reason, they want the character to be really strong, like Leroy and Fakuram, so people buy it.
Yeah.
But I just wish they'd be transparent with what they're trying to achieve.
Are you a fan of Fakuram, or are you just wanting like the original back, Bruce?
Yeah, where is Bruce? Why is he no Bruce? It wasn't one of the female characters a bit of a Bruce clone as well? Like, she's got something.
Josie? Yeah.
Yeah, Josie. Yeah. I haven't got Fakuram. I kind of want to, just to mess around with them. But I'm kind of forcing myself to stick to Gani so I don't get bogged down in information overload. I just want to get fundamentally good.
Yeah. So are you
So-
touching Nina or Heihachi at all?
No, I'm not. I mean, I really want to play Nina, but I just feel like it's the effort to reward ratio is not really there.
Yeah.
Like everybody gets really high damage bread and butter combos with a wall carry. She really doesn't. And the stuff that's really cool and hard to do, like the while standing one combos, it's not any better than what another character can do with simple inputs.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to. Like, I want to play a strong character. I'm always going to have that mindset that I want my character has to be like, towards the top tier. And I know a lot of people don't like that attitude, but that's just how I am. Because if I lose, I don't want to have any excuses. And this was actually something I remember specifically choosing to play top tier in DR because I hated playing 5.1. And every time I would lose, I wouldn't take responsibility for my loss. I'd always blame my shitty low tier character. And maybe that sounds like some rationalization, but that's just how I feel. I don't want anything holding me back. If I lose, it's got to be because I lost and the opponent beat me.
Yeah. I mean, for the longest time. Sorry, man, you go.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, just for the longest time, I always knew you as a Nina player, but I would hardly ever see Nina matches from you.
Yeah, I mean, I played her the most, that's for sure. I played her the most, like 5.0 all the way through, but I also dabbled with other characters, and I always wanted to be a Machina player. I just thought it'd be so cool to be able to pull that stuff off all the time. And so, like, yeah, in DR, I did play a lot of Nina. I still probably played her the most in DR, but I ended up switching over to Heihachi and Ganryu and then Deviljin, just because they were much stronger, and also because like I finally felt competent and confident enough to play Machinas.
Yeah.
Every time I tried before, like I'd get to the point where I could do some electrics and I could do combos, I could do some stuff, but it took so many of my resources trying to pull it off that my mind's not in the match, and I'd always get smashed, absolutely smashed. So when I could finally like play Machinas, in DR, like that was it. I wanted to stick with it.
Yeah.
And Ganryu was just too much fun.
Yeah.
He's so cheap. He's really cheap.
What's so cheap about him?
In DR, he's just in DR he had a lot of cheap moves. He really was high tier. Like if you remove Deviljin and Heihachi and Kazuya, he would have been like right below them with a couple of other characters. The low DF3, it's just like it's the perfect low for being, for annoying your opponent. It's beautiful. It's like it might be that single move DF3 is mostly why I play Ganryu. But also like he doesn't have a 10 frame jab, which makes a lot of situations really hard. He's got a 12 frame jab. He's got a 10 frame the headbutt, but that's unsafe. But he's got a lot of like plus frames on block on a lot of his moves. So I just like to try and lock down my opponent with that all the time. It's really frustrating for your opponent if you can do it well.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's got like a good DF1, good pokes. He's got good combo damage. I'm not really sure how his combo damage stacks up in Tekken 7, but in DR anyway, it was insane.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And he's got awesome gimmicks too. Like he's really cheap. He's got like tick trap gimmicks, back turn gimmicks.
Yeah.
There's the kind of stuff you catch somebody in. It's like it's a clip. It's a highlight reel, and it takes the whole like 100%. Take their health.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think we're nearing the end, man. I just thought we could watch this clip. It's from an SBO qualifier. Do you remember Super Battle Opera?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I do.
So this is in 2007 where Nee single-handedly defeated the entire team, and I thought you would enjoy this.
Awesome, man.
And I mean, it's so crazy because some
good.
players don't even know, like,
Balance, Q-dance.
yeah, like these guys were playing back in the day, you know?
Yeah, man, they were. JDCI was back then too. He
Yeah.
played Heihachi back then. Actually, Heihachi was really cheap with the original Tekken 5. He had like his 10 hit 221. You get a FF2 guaranteed. It was like 40% off a jab.
I mean, if you played DR, if you watched Korean matches, if you saw the Red Brian, you knew who it was.
Yeah, yeah. And you watch, he'll just like he'll move with taunt everywhere. He might not be doing it, but he's doing it now.
It's like the NCA thing. It's like sidestep taunt, like almost every
he's
time.
not backdashing. He's taunt backdashing. He's
Yeah.
taunt front dashing. Like, to watch his hands while he's doing this would be insane.
Yeah.
So fast. Be like watching a StarCraft 2, or like StarCraft player with crazy APM.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Nee will go down as one of the greatest Tekken players of all time. I mean, who do you think could be considered in that list?
Definitely Q-Dance. These two players right here, definitely. You know what? Q-Dance making that comeback, that was such an awesome story because back in Tekken 5, he really was my idol. And then having that cool connection with Ryan as well.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So there were two players that I idolized back in there. It was Q-Dance and Main Street Ryu, which was a Japanese Heihachi player. And there were like other players like Narukov. I don't think these guys are around anymore.
Nah.
But yeah, definitely Nee, Q-Dance, JDCR's got to be there now.
Yeah. Well, if there were two players that you could see jamming DR against each other again, who would you want it to be?
Like anybody in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Q-Dance versus Main Street Ryu.
Yeah.
For anybody who might be interested in checking out some of these like old school high level Tekken matches, just YouTube Q-Dance versus Main Street Ryu. They had like a 25 match set, like a death match to promote for Tekken Lord Black, which was the highest rank back then. And that's just like, it's an amazing display of like just the highest level Tekken you could possibly see. The two strongest characters in the game against each other, and like Main Street Ryu was known as the best player of Japan, and Q-Dance was known as the best player of Korea at the time. It was just two juggernauts going at it. And you also get to, what's really cool is, we see tournament matches today, but there's something a lot different about a long death match that you're never going to get in a tournament. The swings that happen, one player comes up and then this guy figures him out, and the momentum switches in a long set. It's really cool to see that stuff happen, and you get to see that in this particular series.
Yeah, when the pendulum swings, it's like you really get into it, and this is without any comeback factors. No rage drive.
That's another thing. That's like
comebacks meant a lot.
I know seeing like the crazy rage drive death fist, like 100% death kill. It's exciting to see, but there's something different about seeing a raw comeback back in Tekken 5 with no comeback mechanics. Like the care and the precision the players take to get that comeback. And don't get me wrong, there's like super high damage stuff in this game too.
Yeah. But I understand. Yeah, I get you, man. Like comebacks, it's like you had to really work to get it, and once you did, it's like, people would just go crazy, eh?
Yeah. I mean, this guy Nin, he was an absolute legend back then.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's still around.
No, I don't think he is too. But fun fact, the guy who got me into Tekken, he's like one of the first guys that he looked up for vids, because he liked Steve too. But yeah, Nin was a classic player, man, old school.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I don't. In the West, at least, Q-Dance was known as the best player of DR, but I'm sure the Koreans would have much better knowledge about it, you know, because
Yeah.
it was always kind of like we're hearing these stories from this mythological land, the maker of Tekken,
Yeah.
Green Arcade.
Oh, that's another place that's not around, Green Arcade.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, didn't they
Shit.
get closed down
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah.
I think there's Joybox, right? Is Joybox a Korean one or a Japanese one?
I'm not sure.
Japanese one.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy. Yeah, so I think the lore is that like Q-Dance was really having wrist injuries at this point in his Tekken career, and he had to give it up. Like he went to I think he went to Evo in America, and his wrist was so bad that he couldn't play on stick. He
couldn't
played
play.
on pad.
Yeah.
And he still took out the tournament. Legends.
Yeah.
So Lee just takes them out and hit this guy 201.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's around. He was there was this Korea versus Japan tournament 3v3. Wait, no, there were teams of 5, sorry. And no, it was a team tournament, and I think 1 or 2 teams from Korea went. And balance was like Q-Dance, and then 201. What else was it? Might have been a pole player, Narikov. And one more. Forgetting one more. How dare I? Damn. But anyway, like, so what happens is the teams jump on. It's just like this. So if you lose, the next person in your lineup comes out, and every time, like 201 would come out, maybe 3rd or 4th, and he'd wipe the Japanese team. He kept balance in the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so cool watching these matches.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun preparing for this interview, man, because looking, as you were saying, like looking at all the old DR clips, I'm thinking, oh man, that goes way back. And you see a lot of good players, a lot of good tech, and maybe some tech that doesn't work in games now, but due to muscle memory, there's just stuff that you don't forget.
Yeah. Yep.
Man.
Oh man, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah,
I still think it looks great too. I still think like it just looks really good. It's a good looking game.
What a punish. Oy. Oh yeah, down 3-2 used to prop you up. Yeah, 13 frame jet upper. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, he was even worse in 5.0. 5.0 he was horrendously broken.
Mm-hmm.
Back one launched on normal.
I mean, I know Nee didn't really have a thing for Brian for Tekken 7. He was playing, Steve, and
he plays like everything now, eh?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he doesn't. I mean, he's not limited to one character now, but I think we'll always think of him as like he was the Brian.
Yeah, I wonder if the way the really competitive scene's gonna go now is it's gonna be more like just players are really good fundamentally and they can play everything, and there's like a bit of a matchup thing going on in sets. So like maybe they lose their first, the first match is going to be blind. You pick what you pick and you're stuck with it.
Yeah.
But then when you lose, you can switch characters. So maybe they'll switch to a character who has a good matchup against what they just lost to.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's going to be a way forward, and then we will see less and less character loyalists.
Yeah. Well,
the specialists.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Potentially, especially if these guys are, dominant esports figures. It's like, yeah, you are playing for competition. You shouldn't be playing on the whims of a character.
Yeah. But then again, it's like, to be able to play at that level at all, let alone with multiple characters, is just, to me, it's insane to think about the level of skill of these guys. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be good at this game, no question about it, you're going to play a lot. You're going to spend hours and hours and hours. There's no way around it. If you're good at Tekken, or probably any fighting game, it's a grind. Yeah. But it's a very, very, very rewarding grind.
And with that, man, I've got some last questions for you to round it up, or should I say the final round? Sweet. So, you ready?
Final round.
Yep.
I'm ready.
Cool. So the first one, have you ever taken money or credit from the arcade that wasn't yours?
Yeah, I think quite a few times I'd show up and there's like leftover credit. That happened, there's like a lucky day. It's like a free game waiting right there. Nobody's at the machine. It's empty.
All right. Next one. Name a player you look up to in the wider FGC.
Like internationally, you mean?
Yep.
Q-Dance. Q-Dance because he was like, I idolized him back then. I always enjoyed watching his matches. I was blown away with the Mishima play, the high-level Mishima play. And then the comeback story, like to not play. I don't think he played Tekken 6, but he started to come back in Tekken Tag 2. And he clawed his way up. And then in the Tekken World Tour in 2017, he takes out the finals, unsponsored. Like,
yeah.
All the sponsored players at this event, and he's doing it on his own.
Yeah, no. Okay.
And I really felt, I kind of felt like I felt that win. Like I felt like it was mine too. Like the oldies.
Like he did it for the old boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Even though like Tekken's such a hard game that a lot of the best players have been around a long time. Like me, JDCR.
Okay. The biggest win streak you've achieved at any arcade for any game?
I remember getting over 50 with Heihachi in the
Holy crap.
But that would be out of recall. There were like a couple 20s. Whenever I get a 20, I'll be like, hell yeah, this is a good day. But that 50 with Heihachi was crazy. That's when I first started the card and I had 100% win record for a while. That was cool. And I didn't lose either. People just stopped playing. So I lost to the CPU.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, actually, I got to the final boss and I lost to the final boss.
Oh, man. All right. What was the most meaningful match you've had in Tekken and why?
Ooh. I think it might have been. It was a death match for my promotion. For the highest rank in New Zealand, it was a death match against Vince, and there was like a long death match. It was like maybe a 20 or 30 game set, back and forth, and I finally clutched it. And I think it was the first green rank in New Zealand. It was the only green rank in New Zealand. And it was the most meaningful match for me because it was like, it goes back to me like messaging Grimwalker saying, who's the best player? I got to beat them. I got to find them. I got to beat them. And it was Vince. And we had this crazy rivalry. And that was kind of the end of our matches. I got that win. It happened to be the last time we played and I just so happened to win. By no means do I say I was better than him back then. Yeah. I consider us to be equals, definitely. And I respect his talent, but that would have been my most meaningful match.
Also, just to clarify to people, in Tag 2 and Tekken 6, BG, Zazov, Kornova, the highest ranks were mid to high orange. And it would have been the same, Tekken 6, Tag 2. So there might be some people thinking green rank, that's not high, but trust me, in the arcade, you only had so many people actually putting up their cards to rank up. So
there was a thing called card chickening back then, which was like people were too afraid to lose their rank or too afraid to have like their win rate showing not that hot. So they would just play, but they wouldn't put their card in. They'd still use their character, but they wouldn't put their card in. A lot of people did that, and it was really frustrating.
Yeah, man.
But yeah.
Cool. Next one. Complete the sentence. In Tekken 7, I would sacrifice blank to bring back blank.
Ooh. in Tekken 7, I would sacrifice the screw system to bring back Juggles.
Shit. Okay, that's all right. I wasn't expecting that. Cool. Who has the best salt of all time from the NZFGC?
The best salt?
I'm not saying who's the most angry. I'm just saying like when someone is salty, like it's actually a pleasure to see them get salty.
Oh man. It's a tough question. There's some entertaining cats, eh? I don't know. I feel like I want to say, Rambo.
I don't see him get salty that much, though.
Not that I see him get salty, but it's just his charisma in general, and he's really competitive, but he's such a funny dude.
Yeah,
and like I don't know, like when he loses, I know he's upset about it, but yeah, and I haven't seen it a lot because I unfortunately haven't had that many of I haven't experienced too much of the modern fighting game community with you guys, although I love the time I have spent there and I want to make it back in there. But you're just trying to think about how people react to it when they lose. It's kind of hard for me. I'm going back a long way.
but you'd be still.
Wait, no. I want to change my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
I got to change. This is a big throwback. The best salt of all time is a man named Dion from the Tekken 5 days, and he played Law. And you get really, really, really angry and shake the machine. And if he lost really badly, it wouldn't matter if you got another coin waiting for another turn. He's like, no way, again. And he'd go again.
Jesus.
Bad boy Lawless.
Bad boy Lawless. All right.
Bad boy Lawless.
All right. Ooh. If they included a playable character from New Zealand in Tekken 7, suggest what his or her name could be.
It was funny because back when Jackie and myself were playing Tekken 4, we had this thing about, like, we were such nerds about it. We were like, hey, create a character. And I always thought like something similar to Jake the Muss in Tekken would be pretty badass.
I guess
they had the Australian, like Marduk's supposed to be Australian. He came out in Tekken 4.
Yeah, I know. When are they gonna put a New Zealand character in, man?
Yeah,
bro. About time. Would you rather lose to Akuma or Geese in a grand final?
I'd rather lose to. Man, I want to say Geese, but to be honest, I don't know. But all they Geese, I feel it's still almost like I'm playing Tekken.
Yeah.
When I'm playing against Akuma, I'm not playing Tekken anymore. It's a different game. This doesn't feel like Tekken.
Yeah.
This is weird.
No. Fair enough, dude. And who is your waifu?
Nina. No question.
Yeah, no question. Yeah.
No question.
Because she's just top tier, yeah? Well, in your mind, she's top tier?
Just we're connected.
Yeah.
Connected. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's there.
Thanks again, DeeSam, for your time, and it was really cool to reminisce about, the arcades and going back to DR and, your time. Do you have any last words or shout-outs?
Oh man, this has been really awesome to just like delve back into the past and relive these awesome memories. So thank you for having me on here.
It's been a pleasure.
Just shout outs to the whole community. I think I'm really blown away that the community is so thriving. It's awesome. And shout outs to StandingFierce. Like for real. What they've done is just it's tremendous. Shout outs to Zazog. Put that out there. He's he's been helping me get back into the game, giving me the beatdowns. Yep. Shout outs to the whole community.
Thank you, man, and thank you guys.